So a couple more thoughts before we close out about these prophet books. Hopefully this is making a little bit more sense to you, right? Hopefully you can look at these books and have some idea of, okay, this is a messenger, and the context is found in the Bible, just maybe in a different part of the Bible, and it doesn't feel as intimidating. So a visual. This is just a visual of all of the cross-references that the Bible makes, whether it's between books or it's between chapters in a book. This is a visual. Does anyone want to guess how many cross-references are up here?
A lot.
Thank you, Aleti. A lot.
70,000?
It's like 63,000 and some. So when I say, and I've said before, the Bible's kind of like a plate of spaghetti. It's noodle overlapping with another noodle, and they're all mixed together like a big plate of spaghetti. This is like what I always think of, because the Bible and all these different books and chapters within the books is constantly cross-referencing itself. And we see that happen a lot in the prophet books. Yes?
Did you have to count all of them?
No. I did think, though, about like getting together 63,000 some spaghetti noodles and taking a picture of that, or maybe having Brody do that next summer.
Thanks, Brody.
I'm not sure. So just think about that. Like, the Bible is full of cross-references. But again, the context is often found in other books and not in these specific books. I think that's the only visual I had. If you're still with me, say, huh? Yeah. All right. So let's go over a couple of right and wrong ways to read through these books, right? Because that's important too. We want to make sure we understand how to read through these books. So treating them as irrelevant because they address, people who lived thousands of years ago in a country you can't pronounce, you don't know where it is, and to be honest, you don't really care. The student says, Nahum's prophecy against Nineveh, and says that this has nothing to do with me or my life. Why would this be a bad way to read Nahum? What would be wrong with this mindset? Ian, what do you think? You're a smart guy.
The prophecy predicted something that happened, and if that thing didn't happen, then I don't know, the earth today would be different.
Okay, kind of butterfly effect. Sure. Someone else, what do you think? Aleti, what do you think? What's wrong with thinking this? Because this can be a big temptation, right? You're reading through the Bible, you don't really understand. It's about people thousands of years ago. It's easy to just put it off and to not read it and read something easy like one of the Gospels. But what would be wrong with ignoring or just writing it off?
It's not the best because everything in the Bible has significancy.
Significancy, yes. Prophecies, even thousands of years ago, they reveal God's consistent character to us. Like I said about him having your back, even when times are tough. Another one, assuming minor means unimportant. I think we can kind of skip over this one, just like this person wants to skip over Micah because it's just a tiny book. We know that minor, it just means shorter, not that it's less important. They didn't just have special powers, and the minor prophets don't have special powers. Although they did do some really, really weird stuff, which Mark suggested today that maybe I could talk about that. Unfortunately, I just didn't write that into the lesson because he shared that at 6:25.
Yeah, Mark.
But can you think of anything weird that the prophets did off the top of your head? Oh yeah, they called one prophet called on two bears to maul 42 kids or something like that. Jaden.
I believe it was Ezekiel. He laid on his side in the dirt for 40 days or 3
Or a year or something like that.
Yeah, a year or something like that. And then after that, he laid on his other side for a year.
And he was yelling at people as they walked by or something like that. Yeah. The prophets did a lot of really weird things. So they didn't have special powers, but they just did some weird stuff. Okay, treating them like fortune tellers. You're reading through a prophet book, you're thinking, I'm going to find something secret about the end times. It's going to reveal this secret truth to me. What's dangerous about doing this? Maybe it's not in a prophet book, but in all of the Bible, except maybe Revelation and Daniel.
You can misinterpret it.
Okay, yep, that's the low-hanging fruit. Easy to misinterpret that. You don't want to do that. I don't even know what I'd put. The original message, was to Israel and to other nations. The words can also point forward, but it's easy to misinterpret and think this means something else. ignoring the context. Someone reads Jeremiah 29:11. Does anyone know what that verse is? Jeremiah 29:11, what does it say? Jaden, go ahead.
For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans for you to prosper and to have a good life, or something like that.
Yeah, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans for you to prosper you and not to harm you, or,
Yeah, something like that.
very close to that. That was actually written to Israel, so it's easier for people to say, oh, yes, this is like about me, and God has a plan for me. And we know that that's a characteristic of God, right? He created you with unique skills. You are his workmanship, his masterpiece. He has a plan for you. But that verse is not directly about us, per se. So don't want to ignore the context. I just didn't have anything else there. And then finally, overlooking the hope. And it's easy to do this in the Old Testament. You read the Old Testament and think like, wow, like this God is so angry. The God of the New Testament, he's awesome, man. He's healing people and he's hugging people and he's crying with people and he's coming back from the dead and he's giving us new life. But the God of the Old Testament, he's wrath and he's anger and he's always yelling at people and getting so mad. What would be wrong with overlooking all of the hope found in the prophet books? Kristen.
Because God did certain things to help them, like, along the way. Because no one can just, like, if you take, like, a kid, you can't get them from point A to point B without them messing up at some point, and his punishment is what, like, put them on the right track.
Yeah. Jaden?
I would say it would give an inconsistent view of God.
How so? How's that an inconsistent view of God? God's angry in the Old Testament, awesome in the New Testament.
Because they don't see that there's a lot of forgiveness in the Old Testament, and there's also judgment in the New Testament. So if you're just like making it like one big, oh, he's all judgment here, but he's actually, and then he's all grace over here, it gives kind of like a distorted view of the Bible.
That's very well said. Better than what I put. The prophets preach both judgment and hope. We don't want to overlook the hope that we see